Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Truth Seeker Show, the show that is specifically designed to help us to fulfill our life purpose in this world properly by giving information, motivation, pleasure, and healing. I am your extremely humble servant and host for the evening, Self-Appointed-Rabbi Eliezer Karp. I'm just trying to help. So sit back, get ready for a whole lot of truth, given with a whole lot of love, with the intention of pleasing our Creator finally in this generation, once and for all, by fulfilling the purpose for which He created us. We can do it. Let's do it. All right, guys. Welcome. Let's see. First of all, I guess I'll start right off with this. I went to my high school reunion, my 40-year high school reunion, and one of my buddies from high school, who was always so very good-hearted and down-to-earth, and hadn't seen him in a long time. I think we kind of rolled in different circles, but I always knew he was there, and I always knew he was a good-hearted guy and everything. And I happened to see him standing there, and I thought there was an opportunity to say hi after all these years and everything. And so I went up and I said hello, and I knew that he was kind of spiritual and into God, and but I didn't know much more about him there regarding that. So we started talking, and he started telling of his background and this and that, and then I realized that he's a very strong believer in God and someone who wants to please God. So we got to sharing and this and that, and I expressed, I don't know if I said it there. I said it at let me just fix this mirror here. I said it maybe, I think we were in contact through Facebook and whatnot, and then I may have said what the purpose of life is according to the Torah. Now the Torah came, he's a Gentile, by the way, and his lovely wife, I believe, is also a Gentile. And they, very interesting about them, they are so into God and so meticulous and logical and intellectual, but also there's something else in there in them. I can't quite put my finger on it, but they sound almost like they have like Jewish tendencies. I don't know how to describe that. I've met a few people like that throughout my life, and in this endeavor to teach people the truth about the purpose of life. So I guess I've noticed something. I can't quite put my finger on it yet, but I'm just trying to help them along as they search for truth. And as I've told you, but I'm repeating this because we had a little Zoom meeting, and some issues came up as to why Gentiles who believe in other claims believe in those other claims and use the Torah, my Torah, our Torah. It's really our Torah. It's everybody's Torah. It's given to the Jewish people to give to all of mankind, so that all of mankind knows how to fulfill their 7 laws of Noah, the 7 laws of Noah that God wants them to fulfill. And, I'm really kind of just painting the picture and beating around the bush a little bit, but I learned something very simple, and it's so simple that I can't believe why people don't see it, but I was telling them, there was 4 of us in the meeting, my friend, his wife, and they have a Jewish friend who, He describes himself as a messy Jew. He's a messianic Jew. That's how he claims to be. But and I told you all that Jewish people cannot convert out of 613 obligation fulfillment. It's part of our teaching from God that once you're born Jewish, if your biological mother is Jewish and her biological mother is Jewish, good chance there is that you are in fact Jewish, because Judaism is passed down by the mother. Before Mount Sinai, it was passed down by the father, my Rav told me. But we'll get to all that another time. But I'll also tell you a quick thing that I told them when we started the Zoom. We only had a 40-minute Zoom meeting, and then we talked on the phone for a while. But my dad used to play chess with me, and when I was younger, and I would watch, I looked at my dad with googly eyes, and I was watching him trying to find out everything he does. He was a very wise man. He was older than me, a lot older than me. Like, he had children when he was 35. I was born when he was 35. And my mother was 25. And I'm already 58. Boy, by the time I have kids, I hope I can still run. I'm exercising, trying to stay in shape so I can play with my children and play ball and whatever. Anyway, so my dad would play chess with me, and he would beat me in 3 moves. He had this 3-move chess situation that he did, this mode of moves, I guess. He used to have us study this book. My brother also played chess, but he had us, and just as a side note, I think it's called Chochmat or Shochmat. It's based on Chochma, the word Chochma, chess. It's really Ches, I think, like the letter Ches. I think it's short for Chochma, Chochmat, which is a game of wisdom or something like that. Chochma is wisdom. It's like Chochma consciousness is to try to gain wisdom from Hashem. So and I believe King Solomon, I don't know if he created the game or it was given to him. I have to find out the history on that. I got so many other things I'm studying that I've only heard that peripherally. So I know that Chochmat, I believe it, Ches is the correct pronunciation, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Fischer and Spassky were a famous duo chess team, whatever. They played each other all the time. Fischer was, I believe, Jewish, and I think he was from, I don't know if he was from America or New York. You have to go check it out. But and then there was Spassky, and I believe he was Russian, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But my dad had this book, and he would study these moves by, I don't know if it was Fischer or Spassky or both, or their games that they played. And he taught me how to beat someone in 3 moves. Now, I knew I only had 40 minutes to do this Zoom meeting. So I was trying to figure out how best to give over the purpose of life to them and have them just master it right away without any that could distract them or get into their heads, because the mind and the Satan, there's an evil inclination. Hold on, I'm back. Okay, I'll make sure I just went off for a second. I hope you caught that. I said there's the Satan is the challenger, or the God made this Satan, Satan. He challenges people. He's like the resistance against fulfilling obligations. Tries to trip us up, tries to trick us, right, and make us go after our desires instead of doing what's right, what God wants, fulfilling His 613 obligations if you're a Jew, or the 7 obligations if you're a Gentile, the 7 laws of Noah. I know that the Satan works real quickly, and you have an evil inclination and a good inclination, the Yetzer Hara and the Yetzer Hatov. The good inclination is the Yetzer Hatov, the evil inclination is the Yetzer Hara. And we have these forces within us and around us, and we have to strive to fulfill God's 613 obligations if you're Jewish, and the 7 laws of Noah if you're Gentile, and overcome the evil urge within and from without. And that's the challenge of life. Those are the dynamics of life. And That's what we are taught. We Orthodox Jews, I don't like the word Orthodox, we Yehudim, we from the tribe of Yehuda, we Israelites, we Hebrews, we're taught this is what God wants us to do, to choose good over evil all the time. So that's why I say make every action an obligation fulfilling action, then you get like one step ahead of your evil inclination and of course the Satan. He'd really have to work hard to trip you up. That's make every action an obligation fulfilling action. That's the trick. Anyway, so I was trying to lead them onto the truth, and I kind of planned it in 3 moves. Basically, number 1, the purpose of life. We are alive in this world to earn the life of the next world by fulfilling 7 obligations if you're not Jewish, and by fulfilling 613 obligations if you are Jewish, and by fulfilling 10 steps to immortality that I've shared with you, that I've learned. And that's what God wants. He wants us to earn the life of the next world. That's the place for receiving the reward. This is the place of earning. And we only have a short life. Don't waste it. Don't waste it on your own selfish pursuits. Make every action an obligation fulfilling action. Don't waste it on false claims about the purpose of life. Don't get distracted. Okay? Second move. It says in the Torah, in Deuteronomy, or Devarim more accurately, 4:2 and 13:1, do not add to the obligations of the Torah, do not delete from the obligations of the Torah. And that's how we know that this Torah is the one and only true instructions. My Rav said it to me, he's reiterated it many times under varying circumstances to try to drive the point home to me so I could drive the point home to you. So that's that. And you should also know that if we fulfill the obligations properly, we are rewarded. But if we do not fulfill the obligations properly, we are punished. Checkmate. And that's it. That's all you need to know. It's really that simple. Okay, so now let's delve into a bit these 3 people that I was engaged in conversation with whom I had engaged in conversation, and they came from different backgrounds, and the 2 Gentiles have a certain claim, and that my fellow Jew has a certain claim which is almost very similar to theirs, but he needs to know that you're not allowed to convert out. But that's a side point. The 3-move checkmate is, and I'm not trying to beat anybody or be a big shot or try to win anything. I'm just trying to help their minds get the truth in the quickest amount of time. Or else you could spend years debating and back and forth because the main points are not being mentioned. These are the main points. And I really want to extrapolate on those main points so that it drives it home for them, if they're watching, God willing, and for all of you. Because you can have so many thoughts in your head that are wrong. So many claims about the purpose of life. I looked into a book of religions. In the index, I think there were about 6,000 or so claims, or there were 6,000 terms in the index. Maybe there weren't 6,000 claims. Could have been a couple of thousand claims about the purpose of life. Claims that I will not give lip service to or mention. I don't even want to acknowledge them because they're all false. Don't take it personally. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm just letting you know that it even says in my Torah, in our Torah, God says, do not entertain false claims. Now, it also says, I'm going to read you in the Sefer HaChinuch, the book of education, mitzvah education. My fellow Jew there only holds by the written law and not the oral law, and I believe my 2 Gentile friends as well seem to make that case. So I was going to ask my Rav, and I did. I called him to find out. Because I remember there was a pasuk or something that said that why we are commanded by God to also use the oral law. Now I'm going to delve into something because my Rav did not call me back yet. I tried to call him about 3 times. But once I left a message, and 2 I just called just to remind him I'm waiting. And he didn't get back, and I thought I would extrapolate on it on the show tonight. I was quite fired up to, while it's fresh in my mind, I would discuss all these points, and then we'll get to Yechezkel and read. But I think this is very important because I could see where a lot of people are getting tripped up. So maybe they brought up an issue. This fellow Jew brought up this issue that he felt that the oral law is not necessary or irrelevant to know the verses of the written law. Now, it's just the opposite. In fact, without the oral law, you really don't know what the verses mean. I'll give you 2 examples that I even I knew this already, and I had researched it a long time ago, but they're reminding me what people need to know. So one is that, let's say for instance, tefillin. Jewish men are commanded to lay tefillin, and we're supposed to put on tefillin, put on between our eyes and toward our heart, around our arms, toward our heart. And the only way you know what tefillin are, what they look like, how they're to be used, is through the oral law. You need the oral law to explain the tefillin. Okay. Also, another point that was mentioned, you can look this up online. It's online. My Rav has said these to me before over the years. I've been to discovery programs in Israel with some great teachers out there, Mati Berger and the Gogek brothers, and for grammar, Dikduk, Hebrew grammar, and also this Jewish new acquaintance of mine mentioned how he studied grammar, and I know that Rashi was a grammarian, and he's one of the rabbis, and he's part of the oral law. So you got to listen to him, and he got most of his grammar knowledge, my Rav told me, from Menachem and Donish. These are 2 grammarians who argued back and forth about grammar, and I have actually their books. I bought myself a copy, and I bought one for my Rav too, so in case I ever called him and I had a question, he'll have the book on his shelf, the Menachem Donish book. When I lived in Monsey, New York, many years ago. The oral law is necessary. Like, for instance, there's a verse that you guys bring up all the time. You Gentiles always bring this verse up, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Now, we're taught in the Torah, with the oral law's explanation, that an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth means monetary compensation. So if you want to be a Jew, chas v'shalom b'li hara, mercy and peace, without the evil eye, to be a Jew that's like not holding by the oral law, that's like a Sadducees, I think they were. Be careful, because you're going to have a lot of misinterpretations of a lot of verses of Torah. Every verse you will come to, you won't know what it really means. Now, I've had like 30 years of training in the Masorah, in the oral law. Okay? So when I'm studying with you in English, that's why I say to you loosely, it's important to study our written law, oral law codifications with a Jewish person. I've been trained in how to think according to the oral law. I know what things don't mean, and therefore it helps me deduce what they could mean, should mean, or do mean. Okay? We're just going through to get all the principles of Torah, but a Jew that does not have the oral law, or a Gentile that does not have the oral law, will come to wrong conclusions as to who or what or why or how a verse is referring. You know, to what, to who is it referring? To what, to why, to how? you won't know all those answers because your head is going to bend things toward false claims that have come into your head based on your experiences. And a lot of times, I'm just cutting right to the chase, people don't want obligations. I don't want obligations. I was telling them I'd rather be sitting on the beach drinking a pina colada. I'm not into being told what to do, but because I know this is the truth, because I know the written law, the oral law, and the codifications, I have a Rav. It says in the Torah, "Aseh lech a Rav," make for yourself a Rav. That's part of the system. It's taught from teacher to student, father to son, mother to daughter. That's the way the system works. You can't just take our Torah, as a lot of you Gentiles have, and just start reading it and think you know what it means. There's an oral teaching. That's very, very important. Okay? You got to submit to the rabbis. You have to become subservient to them. That's what it is. That's the system. And the rabbis did it that way. They wrote it down. They didn't want to write it down at first because they wanted it that you had to learn from the rabbis. But they wrote down a lot of it, and they still kept a lot of it that had to be passed down by word of mouth. My Rav has told me. And he's in the line of a Masorah from Rav Moshe Feinstein all the way back to Moshe Sinai, from Moshe Rabbeinu at Mount Sinai, from Mount Sinai. From Moshe to Moshe. There was no one like Moshe or something. I don't know if I'm quoting it properly, but that's a saying amongst Orthodox Jews, because Rav Moshe Feinstein was one of the greatest authorities on the Torah, and I'm studying with his grandson. Rav Moshe Feinstein no longer is alive, and I have his grandson, and I'm trying to get as much of the Masorah from him as I can, so that I know how to think. There are things that I want to, once you're in the Masorah and you're in the belly of the beast, then look, I come from a different orientation, then your orientation kicks in. And I know that my orientation, I believe, is proper for learning correct Masoretic Torah, meaning that I'm going to take the Masorah and I can actually challenge my Rav and say, Rav, I think within the Masorah, this is really what's logical and right, and he'd be forced to have to look at it because I'm from the Masorah and I'm just bringing it to his attention. I say, I think this is more logical and it's more functionally wise and aesthetically pleasing too. These are important principles. Functionally wise. The Torah has to be done in a wise way, not in a stupid way. Okay? I'm not a big fan of slugging chickens I told you this before, during the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. They put the sins on the chicken, commemoratively or figuratively, whatever you want to say, and they kind of do this ceremony, and I think it kind of looks not so wise. It looks like I don't know, it makes us look bad, I think. That's my opinion. And I have a lot of those points where within the Masorah, I can bring it to my Rav's attention and say, Rav, and as I learn to become more of a posek and authority, I could probably even say, in my opinion, this is not a functionally wise thing. It's not aesthetically pleasing. It doesn't make us look good. There's a concept called Maras Ayin. What's seen by the eye. You don't want to look like you're sinning or doing something wrong or stupid. We represent God, perfect God, the perfection, the perfect God. And we need to represent. And if we don't step up and do things in a wise manner and that are functionally wise and aesthetically pleasing, then it makes God look bad. So that's from where I come. That's my modus operandi, I believe. What's operandi? That's my thrust. And I'm doing it from within the Masorah. So he asked me, this new Jewish acquaintance, my brother, about the oral law, or said that he does not hold by the oral law, and I brought up all these points that he needs to, because if you don't hold by the oral law, you really don't know God's Torah properly, and you're going to you could look at a sentence. There's so many ways to read a sentence I know just from being in the arts that, I'm stopping for a bus. I'm stopping for a bus. I'm stopping for a bus. I mean, you can put the accent anywhere you want. There's certain subtle nuances in the way you say something. And here, God's talking in His Torah. So how are you to know what He's saying? Yes, we need to learn it in Hebrew with the Aramaic. There's some texts of the Torah that are in Aramaic. And a lot of the explanation is in Aramaic, because that's the oral law. Hebrew for the Mishnah, and it's a Mishnaic Hebrew, and then there's it's not biblical Hebrew, which I have a whole take on how it's supposed to be pronounced and everything. Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Jimel, kind of like the Taimoni, the Yemenites, and mixed with an Ashkenazic pronunciation, and I don't hold by the Ben Yehuda and the Sephardic pronunciations. No offense to them, I love them, but they're schluffing off, and they're covering up all the letters and the consonants and vowels, and they're doing something there where you can't really see the true meaning of something. The Yemenites seem to have some attachment to the truth. They give every letter a unique pronunciation, so it's like Jadwol, it's not Gadol, it's Jadwol, and it opens up your mind, and then you start to think, and you see the subtle nuances, and they're also in the Torah. There are crowns on the letters, and pintalas, little points and everything, and you have to, I've spoken with scribes, sofrim, and I've asked them questions about this stuff because they major in that stuff. That's what they do. They make Sefer Torahs. They write the actual Sefer Torah, and they know all the rules. So I've spoken with them, and of course I talk to my Rav, get the Masorah as well. And then they make the tefillin and what's inside the boxes, the parchments. On the parchments, there's these verses of the Torah, and they know exactly what they're doing. And there are these letters, Shatnez, Gats. I don't want to get into all the rules now and all the different particulars, but you got to know all those different things. And I made a study of those things, and I'll review them. I have them charted elsewhere. When we get to it, we'll get to it. I know we're moving at a slow pace, but I'm trying to get us all on the same page. And I hit a brick wall with my friends the other night because I started to realize, oh boy, I think the only thing I can do, I don't know how to help them. Well, I think I have the answer. And I brought 2 commandments that I thought to myself, if I don't have my Rav around, Chas v'sholom b'li, and I'm on a desert island, and all I had was how would I know, if all I had was a book, what book would I want? I would want probably the Sefer HaChinuch that gives you the book of education, which talks about all 613 obligations. And because in there it tells you a good general idea of each obligation, the punishment for each, who it applies to, at what time and when. It gives you the before, during, and after. The what, why, how of every obligation, basically. I started sorting out and charting out the Sefer HaChinuch, so I make it more clear. You'll see that. It'll blow you away. I use those charts. I've only done maybe 10 or more mitzvot. I don't know, maybe 25. I think I did 25 or 30 mitzvot. I've charted them out. I said, oh, this helps. So you got the what is the obligation, why, and the source. What's the reason for it? The Sefer HaChinuch tries to give us reasons for each obligation based on Torah. He deduces things, and it was accepted by a lot of Jews. He did not, about the Orthodox Jewish communities, that's why we use the Sefer HaChinuch, and the Rambam too. And then the how, I organized it by before, during, and after each obligation's fulfilling. How do you put on tefillin? What do you do before? What kind of machshavot, what kind of thoughts do you have to have when you put on the tefillin before you put it on? Then how do you put them on? Which do you put on first? This is a lot of oral law stuff that you got to get from your rabbi. You have to aselach a rav. You have to make for yourself a rabbi. I'm trying my best to help you get started. Get involved in an Orthodox Jewish community, all of you, Jews and Gentiles. Find an Orthodox Jewish community with a rabbi you trust and get started fulfilling obligations, and then a lot of your questions will be answered, and a lot of them will just dissipate. They'll just fall by the wayside because you'll see, what a stupid question that would be. You know, a lot of stuff you'll see, how could I even think that? You know, this pasuk refers to this? Absolutely not. You wouldn't even come with those dumb, stupid points. No offense to anybody. I'm just trying to help you get started on the right path so that of life please God. And you'll please God, and each and every one of us to be prophets and to be on the highest level of obligation fulfillment where you can revive the dead. Each and every one of us should have the powers of Elijah and Elisha to revive the dead. And I'm trying to train myself to do that as well as train you. So please hear me. I'm trying to help you and us. And I'm not trying to be a big shot. I'm doing all this for free. I'm not, looking for anything from you. And I know I can do it, and therefore I should. You know what I'm saying? I learned a lot of things to help people. And if I don't help you, it's like not cancer, and I have the cure for cancer. I'm back again. It went off for a second. If I had the cure for cancer, and I know you have cancer, chas v'shalom b'lei hara, and if I withhold that cure, that's not good. What does it say about me as a person? How could I show my face to Hashem if I don't give you the cure? Now, I have to be a good doctor, and I have to somehow cure you in the most eloquent and graceful manner where you don't stumble. I'm not supposed to drag you through rocks to cure you. I got to gently place you on the table and operate. So that's why I came up with that 3-move checkmate on how to take any human being. I think that guy that just came back, I thought I saw on Facebook one of the hostages was retrieved in Israel. They said he was a Bedouin or something. But he was actually, I thought I heard he was from one of the false claims of those Gentiles who attacked the Jewish people on October 7th. I think, I might be wrong, forgive me if I'm wrong, I didn't get to hear too much about it, but this 3-move checkmate could cure him, could cure all of you. It constantly cures me to keep me on the right track. I constantly think through these 3 points. Purpose of life. Don't add or delete. I'll be punished if I don't fulfill the obligations properly. That's all I need to know. If I told my friends, if I had 5 minutes to save your life, I would tell you these 3 things. And it's like me saying to you, hey, buddy, there's a fire behind you. Move, or you'll burn. Would you not listen to me? Why would you wait? Larry's really doesn't know this and doesn't know that. You move. You get out of the way. You do something. I told you, make every action an obligation, fulfilling action, and you'll know the truth. Do it. So anyway, so I thought of these 2 obligations. So I said, if I'm on a desert island, I didn't have a Rav, I have no phone, God forbid, chas v'shalom b'lei hara, I would want the Sefer Chinuch, and I have like a little motto or a mantra: look to the obligations, because the obligations have everything in them. I don't know why I kind of thought that when I was talking to these 3 other colleagues of mine, but I think it dawned on me later, with God's help of course, that maybe God wanted me to call my Rav first. They want him to be part of the Zoom as well. Maybe that could be possible. I'll see what he's into, if he's able. But maybe God wanted to build my confidence a little bit to show me that maybe I can function without my Rav. Because I have the 3-move checkmate, which a lot of my rabbinical colleagues do not really have. I know there are I have two rabbis in my mind right now who are so erudite, so well versed in other religions, and yet, excuse me, one of them's an Israeli rabbi who I'm quite impressed with whom I'm quite impressed, and the other one's an English American rabbi who is also very well versed in a lot of false claims of Gentiles mostly, and of Jews who have strayed from the truth, and yet I would take 1 minute in my Rav's presence over them too. But I'm trying to save you the time of having to go to people like that, because I would watch them and I'd sit and listen to their hours and hours long lectures of them trying to debate with Gentiles and Jews who have strayed from the truth, and it's exhausting. I mean, if I were them, I would just want to put my head on a pillow and go to sleep. I got no patience for it. I'm tired. I just want, like my dad, 3-move checkmate, bing bong boom, done, and that's it. You know, I'm not really looking to be a lecturer or I'm not looking to hear myself. I'm trying to extrapolate. I keep getting kicked off and coming back. I noticed that. I don't know what's going on with my connection. Let me make sure that I have the Wi-Fi on or something. Maybe something's not cooking there. Let me see. It looks like everything's there. Hold on a second. Let me see here. Yeah, everything's good, I think. All right, forgive me. So let me get right to some truths, some more truths, and I'll read to you from the Sefer HaChinuch these two obligations, 495 and 496. Do not. Am I kicked off? Boy, I'm getting kicked off a lot here. Why am I? You see me keep coming back. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening with the connection. Maybe I gotta check the modem or something. I don't know what's going on here, but I hope you're hearing what I'm saying and catching all the points. If I miss something, please let me know. But let me get to the 613. I'll just look here for 495. I'll just read you in the presentation that I've given you guys on Facebook. I listed out all the obligations with their sources and punishments, which is very helpful. And I gave you a CD or a recording that you can make into a CD where I read all 613 obligations. I do the same thing with the Gentile 7 laws of Noah and also with the 10 steps to immortality. So you could just listen in your car. I got it in my car. My mom doesn't like to hear it so much, so I don't use it so much, but I use it at home if I have to. But, people are very against truth. People don't want to be bothered. My mom doesn't want to hear truth. So I'm giving it to you guys. If you come into the show, I prefer it this way, where if you want to hear truth, I'm here to give it to you. I don't like spouting it out all over social media because it ticks off my friends. I don't want to make them uncomfortable, especially if they don't agree with it. And probably some don't hold by the oral law. So how am I to... I could give them this... All right, so I have this information now. I guess I'm putting it here. You guys, if you think it's important, which I know it is, teach it to someone else. And it'll start the ball rolling, and eventually everyone will know the truth. All right, so 495. Do obey the great Beis Din, the Sanhedrin, in every period. Source is Devarim or Deuteronomy 17:10. The punishment is it's a positive obligation to do. Positives are do's, negatives are don'ts. Do not do, right? A positive obligation has certain punishments attached to it. I've read that to you before. It might be a little less than don'ts. Don'ts usually carry a lot of heavy punishments, like everything from fines to excommunication to death by stoning or decapitation or strangulation or death by, I think there's 4 or 5 of them. Burning, stoning, strangulation,
And I always forget that. I don't know. So it's in here. Let me see if I found it. Well, maybe should I tell you? Or you look it up. You'll see the Jewish. Look up Jewish capital punishment, and you'll get it. I don't know why. I always forget that. Let me see. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Think this is an easy gig? This is hard stuff. Trying to be responsible for the lives of 8 billion people, giving you the right information each week. Especially for myself, I need to know this. So, and then sometimes it's a lot of information to digest and to review. I don't have it here. I don't know where it is. Let's continue. So a positive obligation, I think there are only 1 or 2 positive obligations that have serious, heavy penalties for, like maybe even death. I think it was one, not eating matzah on Passover. I thought that was one of them. There might be some, maybe circumcision, do circumcise. I forgot exactly which ones they are. We'll get to it. I have it written down. I've given it to you before, but I forgot it because I hadn't reviewed it. So the punishment is a positive obligation, and it's very great. So if you have to obey the great beis din. Now in this, I believe, is included, do listen to the rabbis when they make fences for the Torah. And we're going to read in the Sefer Chinuch where I got the information to sum it up here. I'm going to go back to all the details and read it to you. So I'll give you like an experience in the oral law. Because the very obligation which tells us, I believe, to listen to the oral law will teach us about the oral law. All right, then there's another obligation, 496. Do not or don't disobey the great beis din, the Sanhedrin. Source is Devarim or Deuteronomy 17:11. It's the next pasuk. The punishment is a negative commandment and a positive commandment, but no flogging. You don't get flogged because of a death warning. Now, for some reason, that's like the logic. You got to know the oral law on how God taught us to understand the punishments in their proper order and what takes priority. And because you have a death warning, you don't get flogged, to my understanding. All right, so those are the obligations written in, and the next obligation, 497, do appoint a king over us. We Jews have that obligation to appoint a king, not Gentiles. Devarim 17:15, and the punishment has question marks. I wasn't sure the punishment from the Sefer Chinuch. I couldn't quite deduce it. It wasn't so clear, or maybe the author did not make it clear, or maybe he skirted over it because maybe he himself did not know. It was not clear to him. I don't know. I'll get to the bottom of it. We'll get to the bottom of it. But anyway, so I was trying to say that because my Gentile brothers and sisters wanted to say who our king is. First of all, what is it of their business who our king is? I know a lot of you Gentiles, and I don't say this in a rude way, just trying to get you to see in proper perspective, you have no business telling us or yourself who our king is. That's pretty bold, don't you think? You don't even know our Torah. You don't know, even if you know all of our written law, but you don't know any oral law, so you don't really know the written law. And then you're going to tell us, because you've forced square pegs in round holes, you tried to force translate and say what each pasuk refers to. I'll give you an example. I went through Isaiah 53 with you guys when we were on Yeshayahu, and I remember that. I made a point of taking that and isolating that chapter, right? And we read Rashi, and Rashi says he's our go-to rabbi for knowing how to understand Psukim. Rashi's commentary runs straight down the written and oral law pretty much. He's on the 5 books of Moses. He's on a lot of the Nevi'im, on the prophets, and I believe on the writings, if I'm not mistaken. We didn't get to it yet, and I haven't done it with you in Hebrew and Aramaic to get to the Rashi, but I just know peripherally that
Rashi's there, and then he's on the oral law too. He's in the Rashi and Tosafos, or in the Gemara Bavli. Okay, the Yerushalmi has different poskim. The Jerusalem Talmud has, oh boy, I can't believe, I'll have to look back at my notes, but can't believe I need to review everything, man. I'm just, but Rashi is with us straight through the Gemara Bavli. So that is, and we rely on him to understand the oral law, all right? So, why was I mentioning Rashi? I said, you guys said who our king is, and I was trying to tell you something else. I forgot. I'm sorry. Let me get to this. It's hard being a good teacher, boy. Let's see. 490. What was that? 495 and 496, right? Okay, so now I'm going to go to 495 and 496. This is the book I have. This is the Sefer HaChinuch. It's in Hebrew and English. Hold on. You know, I also had a chart I wanted to show you, a historical chart, which is very helpful. You Gentiles who claim other things about the purpose of life, and you Jews who are not plugged into the Masorah and don't know about the oral law and don't hold by it and are having trouble getting the truth, this chart would help you. Let me get to it first. All right, jumping around. Here's obligation 495. Now, I highlighted the heck out of it, okay? And I have a highlighting system in colors. I once met a rabbi who was studying Gemara in one of my yeshivas that I studied at, and he had highlighting pens. And I said, Rabbi, what are you doing? And he said, I'm highlighting the Gemara with these highlighting pens so I know what each thing is. And then I developed a system. In fact, I even took a piece of wood and I made a holder for all my pens, because pink was what? And then the yellow would be, blue would be the source, yellow would be why, also for the what was orange. Orange is the action. The who is pink. Excuse me, it's been a long time. Who is pink? What is orange? Source is blue. The why is yellow. Maybe the yellow came before the blue, because the source is part of the why. Okay, let's say yellow for why, blue for the source, and then green was the how. Okay? So I had like 5 little holders. And then I'd sit with whatever I was studying, and I did it with this book, and I would highlight like that, and it's very helpful. Use that to help yourself. Okay, so here, I knew that this mitzvah included, do listen to the rabbis. Okay, so here we are. 495, the religious duty to heed every great Sanhedrin in every period. Okay? Let me see how many pages this is. See how much I'm going to tell you here. Hold on. Yeah, all right. It's about 3 or 4 pages for that mitzvah, and small font. And then the next mitzvah I want to read to you is, okay. You know, maybe I'll even read the next mitzvah after that about the king, because maybe it has some juicy stuff in there to help you guys. Yeah. All right. We'll get to, okay. I'm going to keep reading. Maybe this is, if we only get through this today, it'd be worth it. Okay, we'll take a little divergent course here, because this came up. And my friend wanted to do Zoom meetings each week, and I don't know. I don't know if, I'm 3-move checkmate. I don't really want, you want to talk to the other 2? I'll give you their names. Maybe those guys can do it. But you're going to be on the phone with them for hours. They're going to go through every pasuk, every sentence that you mistranslate, and they'll show you what the true meaning of it hopefully is. I don't know if those guys have a Masorah. The one of them is an Israeli, I think he's Sephardic. The other one knows my Rav, and I've seen him at my Rav's house before, but I don't know if if my Rav is his Rav. I'm not really sure, so I don't know if he has a Masorah. And this is the way, when you're in the belly of the beast, this is how you operate. You got to know, I know which poskim, which authorities have a proper Masorah when I study the 5 books of Moses or the prophets or the writings all the way through the oral law and the codifications. Because I sat down with my Rav and I said, all right, Rav, life is short, I don't have too much time, give me all the authorities who have a Masorah. And he just listed them out to me, and I would go book by book with him, and I wrote it down, and then I charted it out and typed it up and whatever. Okay? Now I know these 2 rabbis, I don't think they have that chart. I use the word very loosely when I call them rabbis, no disrespect to them, but if you don't have a Masorah, I mean, you could learn there's different levels of a rabbi. A rabbi usually learns probably Orach Chaim of the Shulchan Aruch, the first book of the Shulchan Aruch. That's what we hold by. Jews of today use the Shulchan Aruch. It's based basically on the Rambam's Mishneh Torah. So, but yet, okay, let me say this. Then they also, usually they learn Yoredeya, which is food. You got to learn about food. What's kosher, or else you'll die. You need to know about food. So people, when they become a rabbi, they usually learn about food. Then there's other rabbis who are a little more diligent, and they get into Choshen Mishpat and Even HaEzra. I don't know. I might be saying them in the reverse order. I think it might be Even HaEzra and then Choshen Mishpat. You learn about marriage first, and then you learn about business law. Because it says in the Torah, I believe, when you're 18, you take a wife, I think it is, and then you go do business. So, it's funny, a lot of people think they have to make their first million before they get married. When you get married, in the Torah, we amongst the Orthodox Jews, we know that God brings extra parnasah, extra livelihood, when you have a wife and children. For each kid, I've questioned my fellow colleagues. I'd go to their house for Shabbos, my married friends. Then we'd be sitting around the Shabbos table, and I asked them, I said, you guys, I'd talk to each one of them, maybe after the kids went to bed, I don't know. I'd say, you guys got more parnasa for each kid? And they said, yeah. And I said, Hashem helped you? Yep. Got a different job. This one got a new job. This one, she started working, or something happened where Hashem jumped in. So there's trust. There's always this trust element. You can't avoid trusting God. He wants us to trust Him. It's an act of free will to trust God. I'll give you an example. I called somebody about something and they didn't call me back yet or give me any confirmation yet. And I trusted God would have it happen at the right time. And the time is not the right time yet, obviously. So, but that's trust. And it's like that with everything. Where do I get money for a certain thing? My mom needed something, and we had a little problem with something, we had to wait, and then Hashem made something happen, and then she got what she needed. It's always like that. And I'm always there by her side, and Ma, don't worry, just trust in Hashem, it'll come when He's ready, and blah. She doesn't like listening to me, but when she finally listens, she realizes that that's the truth. Whatever. All right, so let's read these, and we'll read straight through 495, 496, and 497 into the king obligation. So maybe there'll be some juicy stuff there for you Gentiles who want to know who our next king is. It's probably in there. I think I highlighted the heck out of it. It's in there, so we'll get to it. All right. So here, 495, the religious duty to heed every great Sanhedrin in every period, to obey the great Beis Din, the Supreme Court justices, and do all that they command us about the ways of the Torah, regarding what is forbidden or permitted, ritually unclean or clean, punishable or free of penalty, and so with anything that appears to them to be a reinforcement and correction in our religion. Now, here's the translator. He's using words. I wouldn't use the word religion. My dad once told me the word religion is like a French word that means religion, legions that hold by the same thing. This is not a religion. This is an event that took place at Mount Sinai. It's a fact. There were 3 million witnesses, my ancestors, that stood there and passed down this system to us of how to know how to please God. All his obligations. You cannot fulfill the obligations without the written law, the oral law, the codifications, further oral law from the rabbi that you're going to make for yourself. And you live in a Jewish community, and there are customs, minhagim of the community. You got to learn those. Then there's derabanans. There's deraisa, derabanans, and minhagim and eitzes. A deraisa is something that is explicitly stated in the Torah. A derabanan is a law made by the rabbis, derabanan. Then you got the minhagim, are the customs of each Jewish community. That's why I tell you, get into a Jewish community and you'll adopt not only the truth of all these other areas, but you'll adopt their customs too. When a woman marries a man, a Jewish woman marries a Jewish man, she takes on his customs. So if he is Sephardic and she's Ashkenazi, she takes on the Sephardic customs. If I'm not mistaken, I haven't looked into that one in a long time, excuse me. And then there are eitzes that your rabbi gives you. Hopefully your rabbi is the one who's in charge of the community in which you live. That's why I always kind of wanted to live up near my Rav. But God kind of changed my scenario for many reasons. Maybe had I lived near him, I might have had a problem coming up with this functionally wise and aesthetically pleasing concept. I probably wouldn't have came up with these two obligations. Oh, that's what I was trying to say before, is that maybe I could think on my own without my Rav, per se. He's given me enough to help you, get you started, and then I'm still studying, and then I'm going to check more with him as I finish the Torah, and then I'll have more information to give you. But maybe I have enough, and maybe he wanted to get me to stand on my own 2 feet. Maybe that's what this is about too. I don't know. I'm still waiting for all the information to come in on the table. Let's see. And so with anything that appears to them to be a reinforcement and correction in our religion. About this it is stated, then you shall do according to the word that they declare to you. Okay, that's the pasuk, Deuteronomy 17:10. Then you shall do according to the word that they declare to you. Whether it's a Beis Din, a Sanhedrin, a Beis Din, the Great Beis Din, the Beis Din. These are all courts. These are all bodies of rabbis that solidify our laws for us and concretize them for us and decide them for us. Okay? Or it could just be the rabbi in that community in which you live. He makes laws for the community. He helps you. Okay, we're all going to wear kippot that look a certain way, and women are going to cover their hair using, I like the tichels rather than the shetels. The shetels look like wigs. The shetels, I don't like wigs per se. If I had a community, I like that whole fiddler on the roof look with the tichels, and I like the hair to be back underneath it pretty completely. I think I don't know if it's a tefach or something that's allowed to be shown. I have to ask my Rav, or when I study it, I'll get to it. But it looks more like, hey, they're covering their hair, rather than, I've seen wigs that look so good that I can't tell if the woman is wearing a wig. And here I am, I'm not married, and what if I am attracted to the woman, and now I approach her because I don't know, she's misleading me. I know she's not doing it, I don't know if she's doing it intentionally or unintentionally, but there are some women that have a hard time covering their hair. I know it's hard to accept God's will. I know. So here, it saves me a lot of time if I just see a tichel and I don't see a sheitel. If I see a sheitel, I look, and it could be, I've had problems in the past where maybe I was a little too presumptuous, and I thought, oh, it's a single woman who just has nice hair. And then I'm already stumbling and falling, and I don't want to get involved with some other man's wife. That's not proper. Okay? So, where are we? So that's Deuteronomy 17:10.
and it is reiterated directly after to affirm the matter, according to the instruction which they shall teach you, and according to the judgment which they shall tell you, you shall do. Ibid 11. So that's the next pasuk for the next commandment. There is no difference in this between a matter which they see, decide by their own mind, or something they derive by one of the analogies through which the Torah is interpreted, or some matter about which they concur that it is an inner truth of the Torah, or in whatever other way it appears to them that something is so. About everything we are commanded to hearken to them. Now, by the way, there are these derivation rules to which the Torah is through which the Torah is interpreted. There are 7 laws of Hillel. I think there are 13 laws of forgot that rabbi's name, and there are 32 derivation laws of another rabbi. Oh boy, I got a review. I'm sorry. But you put them all together. I once charted them all out. I put the 7, the 13, and the 32 on one page. Some of them repeat each other, so I noted that where they repeat. And then I charted it all out to see how many there are actually. I forgot what the number is. I don't know if it was in the 50s or something. But then I was going to master those derivation rules, organize them by what, why, and how for each one, and then prioritize them. Because there are these things like a Gezerah Shava and a Kal V'chomer. Which is more strong? Which is stronger, the Gezerah Shava or the Kal V'chomer? It says some things like that in the Gemara, and it opened my mind up to, wow, if I organized all that, then I could know. Then I could come to my Rav. Look, I think we should all be vegans. I'm trying to prove to my Rav that God told us in Genesis 1:29 to eat the vegetation. Told the animals in Genesis 1:30 to eat the vegetation. Yet animals eat animals, and we're starting to eat animals, and we eat animals. It's not good. So if I knew the order of the derivation rules, maybe I could say Rav, because I'm trying to get the upper hand on the Masorah, so that I could show. I know these things are in the Masorah, but no one does anything with them. I don't know why they don't think about these things. So I'm turning you on to my thoughts that I claim I claim nothing for them. It's not my doing. I believe it's Hashem. He gave me these thoughts because maybe He wants me to help you and prove that we're supposed to eat the vegetation and that God does not want us to have a king. He didn't want us to have a king. By Shaul HaMelech and the book of Samuel, I think it was Shmuel, right? God told us through Shmuel that He doesn't want us to have a king, yet we argued with Him and we twisted God's arm, we twisted His arm regarding eating the animals, and we're doing it again, and I'm trying to get back to pure, unadulterated Torah. Okay? That's solid as a rock, that's functionally wise and aesthetically pleasing. That every Gentile, as well as every Jew, would be proud to fulfill. Period. Okay? So, by organizing those derivation rules and prioritizing them, I could say to my Rav, I know that it says here this, here the Gezerah Shava says as a proof that really could be this. And he'd look at me and I just make it so clear to him, like 3-move checkmate to teach a person the purpose of life. What would he say to me? He'd say, Larry, I think you're right. And then he'd have to change. And before you know it, the whole world, we'd have worldwide life purpose fulfillment and immortality. Everybody would be striving to be immortal. Everyone would be a prophet. Everybody would be someone who could revive a reviver of the dead. I know it's heavy, high stuff, but we can do it. It's in our ability to do. We just got to get organized. So I'm onto it, and I'm trying to help us. I wish you guys would get on the same page with me and help me. Help me help us. Anyway, let's read on. So let's see, to hearken to them. Now, the proof that this belongs in the list of positive precepts, the do's of the Torah, lies in what the sages of blessed memory said in the Midrash Sifrei. Okay, now you got these Midrashim. These are outside teachings, but
are very key to understanding how the halacha, the Jewish law is, and the Gentile law is to be fulfilled properly to please God. You got Sifrei, Sifra, and oh boy. Sifrei, Sifra, Midrash Rabbah, Midrash Tanchuma, Yalkut Shimoni, the Sifrei, Sifra. One of them's on the book of Bereshis, the other one is on Shmos or Leviticus, I forgot. I'm sorry. But I at least know what they are. I just got to review my notes. Okay, you there with me? Let's continue. Let's see, Midrash Sifrei. I don't know if I have time or can read to you. There's footnotes in here, but I don't like using people's footnotes. I like to let me just keep it to the pasuk. I'm in one author here. I don't want to get to a bunch of authors to explain it to me, unless there's something we really need to know and I don't know what it is. It said Sifrei is Deuteronomy 154. I don't know what maybe that's a mitzvah or something. Okay. And according to the judgment which they shall tell you, you shall do. This is a positive precept. Okay. Sefer HaMitzvot. Positive precept once said. There's another book called Sefer HaMitzvot. I think that's the Rambam. The Rambam wrote the Mishneh Torah. In front of it, I think in the introduction, are all the obligations prioritized by the Rambam. So like mitzvah 25, which is do know there is a God, he puts that as positive mitzvah number 1. It's also one of the 6 constant obligations. You better get studying. You got a lot of studying to do. I've been doing this for like 30 years, and I'm very meticulous and very diligent, and I write a lot of notes. My teachers used to make fun of me because I write notes. My piano teacher at UM used to make fun of me because I wrote a lot of notes. So I did it for me, for you, whatever. I withstood a lot of abuse and razzing, and I don't care. I have a good sense of humor. I can take it, but sometimes it hurt, on a weak moment when I'm tired, whatever. Let's see. As to the root reason for the precept, it is, as I wrote in Sidra Mishpatim, I think obligation 78. The laws of the precept are, for example, what the sages of blessed memory taught. According to the instruction which they shall teach you, this denotes decrees which the sages imposed and practices that they instituted. These are fences. It says in the notes, example, as protective measures, fences to keep observant Jewry distant, safe from the danger of transgression or sin. Okay, now I'm getting into other commentaries, which I don't want to, but I thought maybe that was necessary to say, that within this mitzvah, either the written or oral law or both, they're all one to me, says that what the rabbis say you're supposed to follow. It's in the obligation. These mitzvahs, the only way to know how to put on tefillin is with the oral law. If you're not going to use the oral law or disregard it, then you're not going to know how to put on tefillin. You'll take a box from Publix, you'll tie 2 knots and you'll stick it on your head and walk around like a ding-dong. That you won't know how to keep the Torah. So don't disqualify or push aside the oral law. You need the oral law. Let's see. Okay, hold on. This denotes decrees which the sages imposed and practices that they instituted. And according to the judgment, that's the quotes, the pasuk, this signifies those matters which they derive from the law through one of the hermeneutic rules, those derivation rules I told you, by which the Torah is interpreted. From the matter which they declare to you, in quotes, that's the pasuk, Deuteronomy 17:11. This betokens the oral tradition that they received. This betokens, look that word up, B-E-T-O-K-E-N-S, the oral tradition that they received, one man from the mouth of another. Example, law is accepted as halacha l'Moshe miSinai, as given to Moses at Sinai, without any source in the written Torah to be transmitted orally. Wow, that's a heavy little thing there. And this is from the rabbi. Some rabbi at this publishing company wrote the commentary for us, and we trusted him. All Jewry reads this book. If they found something wrong, they'd tell the publisher and he'd fix it. It'd be in the next edition corrected. That's how meticulous we are. We don't mess around. It's not like we listen to the rabbis oblivious to anything. We all know the truth. We all know the Torah. We all study the Parsha of the week. We all know what's going on. And we hear the rabbis talk, and he ain't going to mess around. He ain't going to tell us lies. Because we can check everything he says. The guy sitting next to me is just as smart as him, or the guy next to him. Or the guy. It's like rabbis all sitting amongst rabbis. And there's just, you can't mess around. You can't fool around. You're not going to tell lies. Maybe in other areas of life knowledge, there are liars. You know, you see that a lot maybe in politics or something, excuse me. And there's so much lying going on, and they're so good at lying, boy. They know how to lie, and you can't tell the truth from a hole in the ground. You don't know what's what. I get bored. I get tired of listening to it. I'm nauseous. I'd rather study Torah, where I know there's truth in front of me. And I know every word I study is going to help me serve God better and please Him better. My Rav tells me there are things he learns in 1 year that open his mind up from what he knew in the past year, and he changes his way of observing the obligations and fulfilling them. That's how a posek evolves. You have to evolve with the Torah and the truth. Your mind is an ever-evolving thing. You got to keep learning truth, and there's so much information you got to kind of... That's why I organize it in what, why, how, and I try to... When you see my PDFs on the whole Torah, you'll see how I highlighted the whole Torah so that I not only read it, I highlighted it, make it easier to understand. So I cut through all the pain and suffering of having to organize it. I'm organizing it sentence by sentence, highlighting it. So I put yellow on every Y. So when there's an obligation in the Gemara and I see the reason why it's done, I put a yellow on it. So now I can organize it later on. Later on, I'm going to chart my own book on all the obligations, just like the Sefer Chinuch, but better, because it'll all be charted, highlighted, and you'll see, here are all the reasons, here are all the how-to, here are all the who's responsible for it, and what they're responsible to do, before, during, and after as part of the how. And it'll be so uniform that you'll feel comfortable learning in this text that I'm going to write. Anyway. One man from the mouth of another. So this basically, right there was some information for my Jewish friend, politely, who does not believe in the oral tradition, which is not going to give him, he's not going to know the truth without the oral tradition. It was subtly right there. I saw it, not so well, but enough where I noticed it. He might not see it, unless he's a truth seeker, and if he and all the rest of you, if you don't want the truth, you're not going to find the truth, and the subtle nuances will escape you. Just my experience, I noticed that. So you got to want truth. Okay, then there is what the sages of blessed memory said, that at the time the great Beis Din was in Jerusalem, whatever difference of opinion that developed in any Beis Din in its own place, the matter would be asked of the great Beis Din, and their word would be followed. Now, when for our sins there is no great Beis Din there in Jerusalem, whatever difference of opinion comes up among our Torah scholars in our generations, if those who disagree are equal in wisdom, then if we are not fit to decide among them, and we do not know which way the decision should tend in a matter of Torah law, we have to follow the one that is the more stringent. That's being more machmir. There's a difference between being machmir and mekel. Machmir is being stringent. If I'm in a place and, like, depending on the situation, I've had both situations where I had to be more mekel, but most often I'm more machmir. So, like, if I think something's going to give me gout, so I don't eat it. okay? But I've experimented with some things that are kind of iffy things that I don't. I've enabled myself to eat them, and I haven't gotten a gout attack, thank God. So maybe God is loosening up my stringencies upon me. But whatever, that's a medical thing, which is also part of Torah law. But what they're referring to is Torah laws. If you're in doubt of something, be more stringent. You forgot to make you don't know if you forgot to make an after bracha on something, so then say it. Well, you don't want to say a bracha levatal. You don't want to say something, a blessing that is what do you call it, in vain, or an extra blessing or something. I got to review this again, but there's a common practice to be more stringent. My Rav even told me that. Let's see. Boy, I've learned my Rav for like 30 plus years. I remember pretty much every conversation we've ever had. Wow. And yet somehow I don't remember some of the information. I don't understand that. Equal in wisdom in the matter of Torah law is more stringent. And concerning an enactment of the scribes, the sages we follow the one that is more lenient. And concerning the enactment of the scribes, the sages, we follow the one that is more lenient. So TB Avodah Zorah 7a, Talmud Bavli, supposedly there's a source there, Avodah Zorah 7a. Okay, I don't quite understand what that means exactly. I'm just going to read you all this just to get all the concepts, and I know it'll hopefully be helpful until my Rav calls me and I put the phone on, what do you call it? I can't get calls. I do not disturb, so if he calls now, he's just going to leave a message. But, so this hope, maybe God wants us to go through this first and get all the information, then we can check it with him. There is further what the sages said, that a Beis Din does not have the right to nullify a decision of prohibition by a Beis Din that preceded it, even if it sees in its view that this matter is not forbidden by the definitive law, as long as it sees that this prohibition has become widely accepted among Israel Jewry, unless it is greater in wisdom and also in number than the Beis Din which prohibited the matter. However, when does this rule hold that it is able to nullify prohibition? When it is greater than the other in wisdom and number, when the Beis Din that preceded it did not forbid that matter in order to erect a protective fence, barrier for the people against prohibited things. But if the previous Beis Din that enacted that prohibition in order to make a protective fence thereby for the people about foreign forbidden matters, the Beis Din which comes after it does not have the power to nullify its enactment, even if it is greater than the other in wisdom and in number. Mishneh Torah, Halacha, Hilchos Mamrim 2:2-3, sources given in Kesef Mishnah. Now the Kesef Mishnah was a posek who was an authority on and gave a commentary on the Rambam's Mishneh Torah. All right, so you got to know those things. That's why it helps when I go through a book like this. I know all the poskim. I know who has a Masorah, so I weed out all the garbage. I can weed out points that are coming from some Hasidish piece of information that has no Masorah behind it. They were excommunicated. They have no rabbis. There's no rabbis in an excommunicated claim. That doesn't make any sense. So, and we shouldn't perpetuate that whole derech of them. I love them and I want them to do the right thing and get plugged into the Masorah, as my Rav says. The Sfardim need to be plugged into the Masorah. They don't plug into the Masorah for some reason. I told you once before, the Ashkenazim are basically onto the truth, and within them you have to know who has a Masorah and who the poskim are, and there's certain yeshivas that are more in line with the truth of Torah. I don't want to venture a guess. I'll give you an educated guess, but I may be wrong. Maybe the Mir Yeshiva and the Chaim Berlin, those are probably two yeshivot that are more in line with the Masorah. Litvish, from a Litvak type of approach to Torah. I mean, I don't want to go ticking everybody off. I'm just trying to give you the truth. You don't want to know the truth, so don't watch, okay? I'm trying my best to give you the truth as I've learned it. You know, I thought to myself, I wish my Rav would, I thought to maybe get him to do something to, what do you call it, back me in some way, because, I don't know, I had a thought today and I got a little scared and whatever. I was talking to a musician, an older pianist, who I've always known since I was a kid. He's tuned our piano since I was a kid. And he's played with my parents when I was young and I just watch. He played my bar mitzvah. And he told me about how I'm not going to mention his name, but he's not really doing gigs so much, but I'm sure he does whatever he feels as he would like to do. But and I for a second I was listening to him and I thought, wow, am I going to sound like that when I'm his age? Or, you know, I try to keep up on the tunes and I know music is changing, whatever. Anyway, I had this thought later on. I said, oh boy, I hope my Rav's okay. Didn't call me back. I don't know what's going on. I thought maybe I should get some type of document or something where it shows that he's behind me or that I learned from his Masorah. I don't know. And then I thought, boy, I better write my book because I got back pains. I don't know. I'm trying to exercise, get myself in good shape. But we're all humans. And yes, we should be immortal. And I'm striving for immortality. I hope he strives for it too, my Rav. And but I've seen a lot of people come and go. And how do we save lives when when the Masorah is broken and the teachers of the Masorah are gone? It's frightening. It's a little frightening. So I don't know what to do. Hopefully Hashem's giving me some answers. I want to finish these 9 Masechtas in English of the Bavli and the Mishneh Torah, and hopefully God will somehow make it clear to me what I got to do. Because I see we're heading down. It's scary, man. I'm sorry. I hear a fellow Jew talking to me, and he doesn't hold by the oral law, and he's so confident in his naivete, and I don't mean to insult him, but he talks, and I'm listening to him talk, and it sounds so naive. It's like he's saying this means this, and this means that. I told you what Isaiah 53 meant. Rashi, that's why I said Rashi. Rashi said it, boy, Hashem brought it back. Rashi said that it refers to the nation of Israel, not to the guy that you guys worship as your king or something, or say is our king. Who are you to tell us who our king is, you Gentiles? It's bad enough that a Jew would do that, when the Jewish people already told you that this guy did not fulfill the qualifications for kingship. I read all those qualifications. Maybe we'll get to it in this, in that obligation. Sometimes it lists the details, and maybe the Rambam. I believe the Sefer HaChinuch is based on the Rambam too. Came after the Rambam, to my understanding. I saw a thing of a guy on a I was watching Facebook, and there was a movie that came on with a young black kid sitting next to his mother, and what looked like a trooper, someone in the army or something. The kid was talking back to his mother and told her to shut up, and the guy came over to him and said, "What are you doing telling your mother to shut up? I wish I had my mom here that I could love her and take her wisdom, and you're telling her mom to shut up. And the kid was like dumbfounded. He didn't know what to say. He said, you probably don't have a father. And he was right. And the mother finally got up and said, I don't know where you came from, but God must have put you behind me to straighten my son out, because people today, they don't have any respect for the elders. You're all messed up. You guys sound stupid. Really stupid. I mean, I am just blown away. Things are happening around us. I'm looking at my mom. Sometimes we're talking about people like, boy, why are people so stupid? Things we watch on the news, people come to us and act stupid, don't realize things. Just, I don't want to name things because they might watch and I don't want to embarrass them, but whatever. Just people act so stupid. We're in a generation, you have no wisdom. And if you push away the oral law, you ain't going to have no wisdom. You're trying to bend the Torah, God's one and only Torah. You're going to try to bend it to say something stupid to get you off the hook of obligations. That's what you're trying to do. And it's illogical. It goes completely, it's stupid. It goes against the grain of of the dynamics of our existence, of how God set up our existence. We have opportunities that come to us. He's hidden. He hides himself. He revealed himself at Mount Sinai to those 3 million witnesses. He said to us, here are your obligations, so to speak. Gave us the whole Torah in 40 days and nights, whatever. But we received the 10 Commandments first. All those 3 million witnesses heard the first 2 obligations. They said, Moses, you take the rest. We can't handle it. Our souls are coming out of our bodies. And we knew that Moses was a prophet, and because we were all prophets that stood at Sinai. We all stood at Sinai, so to speak. The Jewish people say that. It's like, I don't know if it's a figurative anymore. I think it's a literal thing, actually. Our souls were all at Sinai. There's actually a website for finding a shidduch, for finding a mate. I think it's something at Sinai. We're all at Sinai. I forgot what it was, but it reflects on that, that we should all be... Jews should marry Jews. Do not intermarry with Gentiles. Unless the Gentile converts, then it's Jews still marrying Jews. And you got to convert by an Orthodox conversion. And you certainly ain't going to get a conversion by an Orthodox conversion if you don't believe in the oral law. You're messing up God's will. And you're messing up life. And boy, no offense, but then it got capped off. I heard that I was in my room and my mom was playing her TV kind of loud. She had CNN on, and one of the Kennedys was speaking, the one with the voice that is a little grovelly. I don't know if I heard he had a worm in his brain, but I don't know what happened with the voice. I don't know if it was cancer or something, or had something removed, or it's some type of condition, or maybe he's got what's that? Not Alzheimer's, not Tourette's. In the middle, excuse me. What's the other syndrome where I don't know if what's the Parkinson's, or I don't know which it is. But I heard his voice, and he's shaking and grovelly. Kennedy, and I'm listening to his voice, and then I heard a girl talking the same way, and I said, "Who's that?" He said, "That's the sister of the Kennedy." I said, "Really? They both talk like that, or the wife, or I don't know much. I think she said the sister. They both have that grovelly voice, shaking like that." And she said, "Yeah." And I was like startled, and I had a realization at that moment. I said, "What's going on with us?" Maybe it was the shakiness in the voice. I don't know. I'm not picking on them. I love them. I have nothing against them. I'm just trying to say something. A bell went off in my head, and I'm thinking, man, what a rough generation. Nobody knows truth. Nobody respects anybody. And people can hardly talk. That's what I was thinking. Something like, people can hardly get the words out anymore. We're losing our ability to articulate. And there are some people that just love to tell lies, and they make lies into truth. We're heading down some bad paths attached to truth. Written law, oral law, codifications. Once we're in the belly of the beast and we're learning everything, then we'll try to make everything functionally wise and aesthetically pleasing. We'll help each other. and will become prophets, and will become revivers of the dead. You'll see, and you'll say, wow, I'm so glad I listened to when Larry was talking, because how would I have ever known any of this stuff? All right, we're almost done with 495. Other in wisdom and number, when the base din that preceded it, okay, for the people, protective, in order to erect a protective fence barrier for the people against prohibited things. But if the previous base din that enacted that prohibition in order to make a protective fence, thereby for the people about forbidden matters, the base din which comes after it does not have the power to nullify its enactment, even if it is greater than the other in wisdom and in number. I read that. That's why you got to study meticulously, and you got to have a Rav with a Masorah. Because I would go to my Rav, and he's been through this hundreds of times. So he'll say, no, Larry, it's this. This is how we hold. This is what my grandfather Rav Feinstein said, and this is how we hold. And it's just that simple. And if you hold by the Rav, your Rav, Aselech a Rav, make for yourself a Rav, then you're not held responsible by Hashem. The Rav is held responsible, but he knows enough Torah to protect himself. He's okay. He knows what he's doing. This is the way Torah is learned. Since this is the law, every single base din in its generation has to reflect on the matter and investigate greatly, paying attention to all the prohibitions which it sees the generation observing, so as not to make a breach and rule about it leniently. Perhaps it was in order to make a protective fence about the people that the previous one made it prohibited, although it knew that the matter was permissible by the normative definitive law. And here's the pasuk, and he who breaks through a fence, a serpent shall bite him. Ecclesiastes 10:8. Okay, that's a pasuk. Ecclesiastes is in the it's in the writings. Hold on a second. That is wait a second. Ecclesiastes is Koheles, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Koheles is written by King Solomon, if I'm not mistaken. Ecclesiastes 10:8. Further details of the precept are toward the end of the tractate Sanhedrin. Are toward the end of the tractate Sanhedrin. That way you got to know the Gemara. And it's probably referring to the Bavli, not the Yerushalmi, if it doesn't make note of it. So it's probably the Bavli Sanhedrin. So how are you going to know the details of this if you don't look in the oral law? This obligation tells you to listen to the rabbis when they make fences for the Torah. And in order to know how to listen to the rabbis, you got to listen to the rabbis. Ironic as it is. This precept is in force at the time that the great Beis Din is in Jerusalem, applying to both man and woman, for all are commanded to do all that they, the justices, rule. It is likewise included in the import of the precept to listen and act in every period and time according to the command of the judge, which means the great Torah scholar who will be among us in our generation. That was Rav Moshe Feinstein, as clearly as I could see it. He was like the greatest Torah scholar of the previous generation. He passed away. All the rabbis of his generation came to him to find out how to please God, how to fulfill the halachot, the obligations, the laws, the details, the ways of the law. My Rav is his grandson. So he wrote down, my Rav, everything that Rav Feinstein said. Someone's making books of my Rav's notes as we speak, I think, if my knowledge is correct. Some of them are already printed. I'm waiting for them to all be printed so I can learn them myself. And to be honest, I think the great Torah scholar of this generation is my Rav. Rav Feinstein passed it all down to him. I don't know any other scholar that has a Masorah like my Rav has. My Rav served Rav Feinstein for the last 20 years of his life as his, I forgot the word he used, but like his, not an entourage, but he was like his helper. He would help him walk, he would help him talk, he would help him write everything down. He would edit the people who came to see him and whatever you call it. That's what my Rav did. So to me, I'm a musician. I played many parties. I know pretty much all of the Rebbeim of the generation, those alive and dead, passed away. And I know that my Rav, and I was confident that my Rav was probably the Posek Hador, the authority of this generation. And I say it in humility for him and in humility for me. I'm not trying to be a big shot. I'm just telling you the truth. And I'm trying to give you his information with a proper orientation and those two concepts of functionally wise and aesthetically pleasing, and trying to organize it with my dad's skills of organization. He was an accountant and he was meticulous, and he taught me how to spreadsheet things. And so I'm trying to give it to you so that I hopefully will be the next great Torah scholar. I'm working on it. I'm working on myself with all humility. I'm trying to achieve that to save our life and to please God, period. Who will be among us in our generation? As the sages of blessed memory interpreted, and here's the pasuk, and to the judges that shall be in those days, Deuteronomy 17:9, Jephthah in his generation is as Samuel in his. In other words, a religious duty lies on us to obey Jephthah in his generation as we would Samuel in his generation. Even if he did not measure up to Samuel in piety, learning, or prophetic powers. I see, now that's the commentator. I don't know if that's accurate. It might be. If a person transgresses this and does not heed the counsel of the great men of Torah wisdom who are in that generation in all that they teach and rule, he disobeys this positive precept, and his punishment will be very great, since this is the mighty pillar on which the Torah rests. The matter is known, evident to anyone possessed of sense. Even the author of the Sefer HaChinuch can tell someone who's stupid from someone who's wise. Anyone with sense, who's logical, knows you don't discombobulate God's Torah. You follow the rabbis. When they say to go right, you go right. You don't go left. Okay, 496. Obligation 496. Not to disobey the word of the great Beis Din, the Sanhedrin. That we are restricted that we are restricted not to differ with the masters of the oral tradition. Peace abide with them, in parentheses. And not to alter their words or evade their charge about any subjects of the Torah. Like I said to you, look to the obligation. That's my mantra. I memorized all 613 obligations. When I was sharp, number one, do be fruitful and multiply. 2, do circumcise. 3, don't eat the sinew of the thigh bone. 4, do sanctify Rosh Chodesh. 5, don't eat the sinew. I messed that up. I got to review them again. But when I was sharp, I used to walk from my yeshiva in Muncie to the park, do 300 of them, review 300, and on the way back 313. So I did all 613 up and back. And when you know the obligations, everything, it's like an encyclopedia up here. I know exactly, if I just look to the obligations, I will find what's needed to help myself and any human being. Because it's all there. It came to me this morning, these 2 obligations is probably what my Rav's going to say to me. But he might give me something from the Gemara, but it's related probably to these 2 obligations. That's why I think Hashem had me do this now, to review these 2 obligations as best as I can, which this book is probably the best I could do right now. Let's see. Not to and not to alter their words or evade their charge about any subject of the Torah. Any subject of the Torah. About this, it is stated, it's always in italics when you have the pasuk. So italics, you shall not turn aside from the word which they shall declare to you, either to the right or to the left. Deuteronomy 17:11. And the sages of blessed memory taught in the Midrash Sifrei, you shall not turn aside, etc. This is a negative precept. Do not turn aside. You shall not turn aside. Don't turn aside. At the root of the precept lies the reason that the minds and views of people are different from what lies that, I'm sorry. At the root of the precept lies the reason that the minds and views of people are different from one another. Many minds will never be in accord about things. Well, the sovereign master of all, blessed is he, knew that if the meaning of the verses of the Torah were given over into the hand of each and every human being to decide, every man according to his intelligence, every one of them would explain the words of the Torah according to his reasoning, and controversy would multiply in Israel, Jewry, about the meaning of the precepts. And thus the Torah would become as though it were many Torahs. It is akin to what I wrote in the precept of the following the majority in Sidra Mishpatim, I think it's obligation 78. So right there, for my Jewish friend who doesn't hold by oral law, chas v'shalom, it says right here, everyone's going to have different meanings. Of course, you guys all fall into one category and influence each other to say that the Torah is pointing to your guy who you claim is our king, but it's not. He's not our king. The rabbis showed that he did not fulfill the qualifications. The Rambam said he did not fulfill those qualifications. And here you have a rebel, this rebellious Jew, and it's like a rebellious Jew that leaves Jewry, and you follow him, and you don't know any better because you don't have the oral law. You're not amongst Orthodox Jews. Get amongst Orthodox Jews. Learn Torah. Practice the 7 laws of Noah if you're a Gentile. If you're Jewish, learn the 613. Learn from a Rav. Submit. Be submissive. What do you call it? You have to submit yourself. You have to humble yourself and learn from the previous generation. That lady thanked that trooper, and he was crying too. He said, "I'm going to be your father from now on. You ever have any problems, you come to me. I'll try." And they were all crying, basically. It was so sad. That's where we've come to. It's terrible. Let's see. Then controversies will run. It is akin to, right. Therefore, our God, being the supreme master of all, therefore, our God, being the supreme master of all the wisdoms, made our Torah the Torah of truth, whole and perfect, with this precept. With this precept. I think this is the one right here. Don't disobey a Rav when he makes fences for the Torah, basically. Or do listen to the Sanhedrin. Don't disobey the Sanhedrin. They're all Rabbeim. They're all rabbis. This is it. I think it said it right here. Let me make a note of that so I can tell my Rav. Therefore, our God, being the supreme master of all the wisdoms, made our Torah the Torah of truth, whole and perfect, with this precept. For by it he commanded us to act according to the true traditional explanation accepted by our early sages. Explanation received, accepted by our early sages, peace abide with them. Usually says stuff like that in parentheses. So that we bless their memory, so to speak. And in every generation we are likewise to hearken to the existing sages who received their words in the oral tradition, drank deeply from their written works, and went through much toil, days and nights, to comprehend the depth of their words and the wondrous meaning of their views. Don't you dare disqualify years and years of Torah study. I've seen my Rav sitting there hunched over his books, just trying to get the truth. and all the other rebbeim that I've seen in yeshivas and everything, studying so hard with their chavrusas and singing Torah, you're going to think you could pick up the written law, you arrogant whatever, and you're going to think you're going to learn our Torah properly? You're arrogant. And I love you, but you don't understand how arrogant that is. Go to some Orthodox rabbi's house for Shabbos and sit at their table and soak it in, and go to them every week, and go to them for davening, and go to events with them, go to lectures, Torah lectures, and absorb and immerse yourself in the Torah lifestyle. See how they live and breathe God's will. And we're not perfect. I'm not saying we're perfect, but we're immersed. We're the best you got on this planet. And I spent years, 30 years or more, in the belly of that beast, learning and hearing and playing their parties, and I'm the pianist, and I'm the spine, the backbone of all their joy. I've played with my fingers all their dancing, so that they can exuberantly love God through their bodily movements. And you're going to push all that aside because you think you know better. You're deluding yourself, only to wake up one day and probably be punished because you should know better. A Jewish person should know better. That's not right. I was crying in my heart for my friend here, my new acquaintance. I didn't know how to help him. I knew it was this pasuk, or something's in there. It's the pasuk and the obligation. I knew it was here somewhere. But I had to do some soul searching to ponder. I had to learn from it too. How can I help people? I'm sticking to my 3-move checkmate when it comes to teaching people the purpose of life. I'm not going to mess around teaching. I don't have to. It says do not add or delete. You can't write. There's no new Torah. There's no substitute Torah. There's no something in Arabic. These are documents that should not be written. God does not want them written. Period. You do not add to the Torah. You do not delete from the Torah. So I don't have to entertain any of your claims. You claim, we claim that Isaiah 53 means that. Who are you to claim such a thing? You have no oral Torah. You don't know what you're talking about. And then you're so adamant and arrogant about it, and it forces someone like me. I got to be on my A game. I mean, I don't mind. I'll bring it. You want to play? I'll play with you. I'll be your huckleberry. You want to fool around? I'll come. I'll bring stuff. I'll bring the whole 9 yards, the whole kit and caboodle to you. I love my friends. One of my friends there, the Gentile friend, he was one of the handsomest guys in school. He was one of the best looking guys in school. And so soft-spoken and so humble, and so his beauty was not only. There's a rabbi who I don't know if it was Reish Lakish. I forgot who it was. There was a rabbi noted for his beauty. He was so handsome. Even a heterosexual man as myself would take note that this friend of mine was such a handsome fellow. And he was not only handsome externally, but handsome internally, because he was such a humble soul and clinged to God and tried to learn God's will. Of course, I got to help him get on the right path. But aside from that, and what was my point? I made a point of that because I wanted to say something. I forgot what it was. Hold on a second. Anyway, I had a point. Sorry. Let's see. Where are we? There's some more pages. Oh, there's a couple more pages to this one. Oh boy. All right, I better put some metal to the pedal here. Hold on. Oh wow. Oh wow. This one's heavy. Okay. Wow. Okay, but all right. I'm going for it because this is juicy. This has a lot of stuff. And you see, we've already come to some things. I think we've cleared up some things for my Jewish and Gentile brothers and sisters here. Maybe God will give me what I forgot. At the root of the precept, okay. It's getting hot in here. Therefore, excuse me. Right, and I'm sorry. I don't mean to put anyone down. That's why I said that, because I have great respect for everybody. I I take offense. I'm trying to put it in proper perspective because you don't know what you're saying. When you say stuff like this, you got to understand that I am coming from 30 plus years of Torah study, and even before that, 28 years of studying life. I always wrote notes when I was in college. Before I even found God, I was always trying to figure out life, and I've spent so much time and toil to learn the truth, and you come along and say you know what God's Torah means by just looking at it face value without the oral law. That's just not right. So forgive me for getting so bent out of shape, but I gotta let you feel what it feels like. Look, I've had my Rav yell at me many times. I know he does it with love. I know he's trying to make a point because I'm not seeing some truth or something, and he's got to like lace it into me. I'll never forget, I said to him, we were talking about, I was trying to help people who claim to be homosexuals. And I said, Rav, one of my friends told me, I have a friend who says that he's a homosexual and or claims to be a homosexual, rather say it that way, and thinks he was born that way, and with those tendencies. Look, I grew up eating lobster and crab. I had to make an active decision because I know God does not want me to eat lobster and crab. I gave it up. And I eat the permitted food, the kosher food. He would have to, or let me say what my Rav said. So he yelled at me, he says, God says it's an abomination. I said, Rav, how can I first said to him, what does it say in the pasuk to help these people? How do I help them? He says, God tells you that it's an abomination. Tell them not to do it. And he yelled at me and made me shiver in my boots, and I almost started to cry. I'm very sensitive. I come from a very sensitive family. So I understand, and he was trying to help me, so it made a mark on me. It's in my guts to this very day. He made me almost cry. So I could say it to my Gentile or Jewish, God forbid, brothers who practice homosexuality. Stop it! It's an abomination. That's simple. Okay? But I was saying, you got to be part of the Masorah. Get in the belly of the beast. Latch on to an Orthodox community. Okay, therefore, our God, being the supreme master of all the wisdoms, made our okay with the priesthood, for by it he commanded. Hold on. Therefore, right, for by it he commanded us to act according to the true traditional explanation received, accepted by our early sages, peace be upon them. Peace abide with them. Sorry. In every generation, we are likewise to hearken to the existing sages, who received their words in the oral tradition, drank deeply from their written works, and went through much toil, days and nights, to comprehend the depths of their words, and the wondrous meaning of their views. With this rule of agreement, we will arrive at the way of truth in the knowledge of Torah. Otherwise, if we will be swayed to follow our thoughts and the paucity of our mind, we will not succeed in anything. In keeping with the truth and great praiseworthy value of this precept, the sages of blessed memory said, quote, "You shall not turn aside from it either to the right or to the left. Even if they tell you about the right that it is the left, do not swerve from their order." In other words, even if they should be in error about one particular thing, it is not right for us to oppose them, but we are rather to act according to their error. Again, that's what I told you. If the Rav makes a mistake, it's on him. You followed him, you're A-okay with Hashem. Rabbi says you can eat this chicken. Maybe it fell in milk or something. You can eat this chicken or whatever. Actually, it's meat and not allowed in milk. Chicken, it was like an extra, I believe, an extra fence because then we might come to eat. Then we might come to eat meat and milk together. So we don't eat chicken, but I don't think chicken is considered meat, but yet it was made as a fence. So even if they say to eat this meat and milk together, I think we're supposed to follow them. Maybe not a transgression that's so blatantly, I don't know, now I'm jumping ahead. I'm making derivations that maybe I shouldn't. Let me see. It is not right for us to oppose them, but even, in other words, even if they should be in error about one particular thing, it is not right for us to oppose them, but we are rather to act according to their error. It is better to suffer one error, or all being, it is better to suffer one error, all being thus always subject to their good thought, and not that everyone should act according to his thinking. For this would lead to the ruin of the religion, dissension in the heart of the people, and the total loss of the nation. Because of these points, the meaning of the Torah was given over to the sages of Jewry to determine and maintain. And they were likewise commanded that a minority group among the sages should always be subordinate to the majority. That's the concept of a rove. A majority has strength, and you're supposed to follow the majority. For this root reason, as I wrote there in the precept of deciding according to the majority, paragraph 78, or mitzvah 78, I think it is. Now, by this approach to the matter of which I have made you aware, my son, I will explain to you, I'm tired. It's already 11 o'clock. I'm going to hold there and I'll pick it up here. Because there's we'll do this next week. It's so necessary. And I'll check with my Rav if I'm on the right track. If I get a hold of him. And we'll read the precept of a king too. So you'll know that stuff. I mentioned Saul and David here, and looking ahead a little bit. Yeah, looks juicy. Okay. So I'm sorry we didn't get to Yechezkel today. We took a little divergent course, but I think it's necessary, and I think we're on to something. So let's hold there. Sorry. Tired. Oop. Hold on a second. It's not working. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Truth Seeker Show. I think it's the only one of its kind. I don't know. I don't want to be a braggart. I've been listening to that previous president speak all day long, and it just drives me up a wall. I'm starting to talk like him. Anyway, you've been listening to the Truth Seeker Show. No offense to him. I love him. I wish he would fulfill the 7 laws of Noah and do them well. If you lie, that's like stealing. You're stealing people's time. That's a violation of the 7 laws of Noah. Don't lie. If you get too used to lying, boy, it's really rough. You can't win an election by not lying. You have to lie. You're violating the 7 laws of Noah. This whole election thing, it's just a bunch of garbage. I mean, it's just claims about how to live life that are not God's will. Don't you want to live by God's will? You're not living by God's will. You're going to choose a leader that's going to lead you off the path. Neither one. I love them both. I love her smiley face and her demeanor, and she's trying to be free to be you and me and help everybody feel comfortable with life, and I applaud that. However, we got to be comfortable with life fulfilling God's will. And then this group takes God's will and discombobulates it and uses those false claims as the basis for their doings, and you're going to lead us down a wrong path too. So you're both wrong. So don't you want to make government happen abide by God's will, the Torah should be the basis of our government and all governments everywhere on the planet. You've been listening to the Truth Seeker Show. I'm your super humble host. I'm sorry if I got a little impassioned about certain points. I love you and I'm trying to help you stay on the right track and not go off course. So, having said that, I hope you have a good week, and we'll come back next week, God willing, with Hashem's help, and we'll read the rest of those 2 obligations. And I think hopefully it will drill home for you the importance of the oral law. All right? I love you. Make every action an obligation fulfilling action. All right? Good night.